Welcome back, Scott from Wessex Blades. So, with the long journey of these kukri, I can now present them as virtually finished. A few tiny little things I've done recently were cleaning out the hole, so a mandrel with some abrasive paper, clean out, cleaned up the blade. So I've got a rhino, which is the Nepalese rhino. And I think mirror image now, Wessex Blades. So near full flat, lovely sculpted scales, really fit in the hand nice. A tiny little bevel on the cutting edge, and it is pretty damn sharp. Cuts all the way up. The test that I've got to link in later is not to demonstrate whether or not it can go through something chopping. It's to demonstrate a nasty bit of wood on the edge and then still cutting the wood afterwards. So it's not necessarily whether or not it can go through in one go like a competition chopper. The wood is left outdoors for years, so it's beyond seasoned. It's outdoor hardened, so it's had a hard time. It's more for giving the edge a hard time, and then see whether or not it's crushed, rolled, chipped, which it hasn't. Okay, so it's this one, and a slightly different rear end on this one. So that's that one, and then there's this one. The rhino. The logo. Really nice. The handle. In previous videos you see it's micarta at the front and Greek olive. So basically Greek ironwood. Beautiful wood. Very stable. And when you're on the grinder, it's got a sort of plastic sort of feel to it. So the oils in it are very, it gives it as a resilience. So it smells a bit sort of like shed timber, like a creosote smell to it. So no doubt it'll be resilient as it is. And of course I've oiled it in boiled linseed as well. Taken the handles to a 400 finish, which is more than enough. It's got a really nice satin look to it, and with the Spartan pin set against the black, it gives it a nice contrast. It makes it stand out. So Wessex Blades Kukri. Ooh, and it's more of a refined interpretation of a kukri than I normally would have done. My blades are quite big and trunky, and there's more finesse to this with the distal taper, with the more full flat grind. So rather than a big hoofing great slab of steel with a sort of saber grind on it, there's a lot of lightness going on with this, and a more piercing tip as well. So if you were, I mean, even you were doing food prep, you could pierce things, pierce through packets. It's far more agile than the blade I normally would do. It's just trying to get my craft better. So that can go away again in, I make these little pouches up. So thanks everybody for joining along. I got the leather work on these to do and then to post away. I do have one set of scales still to go, so they'll be appearing on some other expression of a knife in the future. But the other one I wanted to show in long form on video rather than continually on shorts, because of the way the algorithm rewards shorts for some reason. Cheers, YouTube. So this is my version, so it's pretty close to how this blade was originally made by a man called John Fitzen, who was in I think Salt Lake City, somewhere around there. He had a lot of coverage with Nut and Fancy 8 years ago odd, and the blades that I would want to make were this tank and the Frankenstein. The Frankenstein, instead of the crusadas being bolted on the side, it only had a big stud coming out with a sort of barrel hexagonal nut, a bit like studding in building, where you get threaded bar come down and you could connect one to another with a threaded nut. So just those stuck out the sides. Frankenstein, they called that one. So it was a slightly longer blade. This is more of a well, it was more of a Bowie fighting knife is the way he did it. But for me, it's just, you're allowed to make one of anything. You know, there's fan guys and they've made a Batmobile. So I've made this for me. This is, if I was going to be making a knife, you know, it's this kind of thing. I'd be going at just big, burly, butch, does everything. But because I'm not exactly petite, I could do finer tasks with this. And it's surprisingly comfortable, and it's everything in my head that the British Army survival knife isn't. It's comfortable there. Yeah, you remember those guards? Yeah, I never liked those things in terms of a design. It had the British Army survival knife always had great potential. You could always lean the grind out. You could always clip the tip. You could always finish off the scales and make it more ergo. You could always lean it down a little. You could always finish it off better. You could replace the scales if you didn't mind butchering the welds, if you were overdoing it. As a chunky thing to chuck in a toolbox in a Chally 2, it's a hell of a bit of kit. But as soon as you put your hand there, that is way more comfortable than a British Army survival knife. There's the guard that comes up and over, and then the crusada on the side that comes up and over. It's really nice against the front of your hand, as opposed to the guard on the British Army survival knife, which just catches the web on you. It's just horrible, which needs finicking around with, and that's the sort of jobs they did. But something along this side, this shape, this kind of simplistic handle, not necessarily quite so long a pommel. There are actual two pieces of metal here that I can add on to and bolt on the back, so you end up with more weight at the back. But for, I mean, you could do bushcraft with this, you can do camp knife with this. The balance is there. That's how quick this thing moves. So Fitzen was on about all reverse cuts and stuff. It ain't gonna be, you know, I'm not FIGHTING on any of this. This is just a really interesting blade shape. I thought it would work as a you know, in terms of its purposefulness, and I made one for myself, and it is brilliant. I love it. So yeah, just a little on that. There's going to be some footage after. Huge thanks to Patreon. There's going to be more interesting stuff coming through. I've got some steel. It'd be really nice to see. So thanks everything. Bit of footage outdoors, and see you in the next one. Like, subscribe.
think that's been, it's probably 10 years old, that wood. So that's there, but where I was chopping is here.
Of course you wanted more. I only stopped that because the phone has a 10-minute sort of cache thing and it just resets itself. So those who stayed in thinking, here, hang on a minute, video minutes to play, so yeah, there's always a bit more if I can do it. So yeah, the blade itself. So clip point, saber grind ish. The section there is called a Spanish notch. Apparently it's for blade catching. It looks good. All right. Again, the crusadas, the guard, whatever it is, again, blade catching. It looks cool. Okay, that's why I did it. And all I've used are some M5 bolts. I've left them as they are, rather than counter boring and removing steel. I've left them dome-headed. I have, what I created are some of these, you get Corby bolts and you get levelers bolts, and I've made some component things up to make kind of levelers bolts. So I just used some of those barrel stud nut things there and cranked it up really tight, and then used a finishing belt just to finish off the edge of the bolt as it's come through. They look really nice. I've done some heavy chopping and it hasn't come loose, so enough with a pair of pliers, cranked up, looks very nice. And because I've only put one side on, there is another one that goes on the side, but going into a sheath, it would need a thick sheath to pack it out, if you need to understand me. I've left it just on the right so it can go in a sheath like that, and then there'll be a cut out on the top of the sheath here. There'll be a cut out there so it goes in the sheath, and then worn to the side of a belt quite happily, right-handed. Again, mentioned earlier, I haven't put the pommels on because it's an option. The original tank, if I remember, only had 2 fix-in holes, because it's my version of it, I could adapt it, change it, rather than be a carbon copy of somebody's design. This is my tribute, my hurrah to John Fitson. So I put 4 holes, and basically he did a paracord wrap on a lot of his. So as the paracord wrap was going in and out, he needed a hole to put them through and come out at the end. So I've left that hole there, whatever. But this, you know, I do have the design, and this is my personal one-off build. The scales are the Burnham, which is a really nice, hard, tough wood. It gives it a sort of oldie worldy. I haven't really finished the steel off on this Crusada. Just gives it a sort of engineering sort of feel. Yeah, and I haven't stopped fiddling with this thing. It took me 7 or 8 years since I had this blank cut out, and obviously with the rush of when I got the Leuku done for Mike, the massive backlog, I've never got round to doing it. It got to the point where, yeah, I'm gonna have to get this thing, but I just kind of have to build this thing. So cleaned it up occasionally, every now and again, do another little stage, and then it all came together at the end. I saw those laburnum scales and I went, do you know what, I reckon it'll just fit. I could see the shape of the grain and how it got narrower there, and I think, do you know, I reckon, yeah, it just had to be done. It just had to be done. I've got it now. Just I leave it on the side of the bench, and every bit of time I can whittle, and there's paper everywhere. It's saying it's everything I wanted it to be in a knife. And it's strange how, you know, people could look at people who, you know, collect guns, collect crossbows, and can't get their head round how someone can enjoy something that others would find intimidating, scary. This thing's just great in hand. I absolutely love it. It's totally me. It's the kind of thing I like to make, as well as the, you know, the classic bushcraft stuff in the UK. But if I could make one of these every now and again, kind of thing, some freaky, heavy duty, outdoor, get it done camp blade, which is what this would be. It wouldn't be quite as intricate, but a chunky, great cleaver thing. It's just totally me. Takes you, obviously, who's followed me channel for years back, the big hoofing grey leaf spring choppers. Yeah, Wessex blades to make you go, you know. So really glad I finally got around to it. You have the impression, as it were, of something, you know, you want to build a fence or you want to build something, and you think of what it will give you once you've completed it. This is everything. It's just making me grin all the time. It's brilliant fun. The balance, if I manage to take it anywhere, like prepper meet or something, I'll try and remember to bring this thing along, and people can have a play with it and a handle on it, and I'm telling you, you won't believe how agile this thing is in hand. It's just great, and that's without the rear weight there. As it is, the balance, the speed, it's so light. It's ridiculous. So I think I was right in going for just the one crosada, no rear pommel, saber grind, bit of a clip point. It's great. It really is great. And I suppose the weight's maybe a bit more than a British Army Survivor knife, but what a character in a blade. It's brilliant. So, you know, with me chatting away crazy about this thing, this is what knives should do. This is what bows and arrows should do. This is what a chainsaw should do to some guy who's out doing tree surgeon work. You pick it up and it does everything that you want it to do. You know, that's why I bought it. That's why I use it, kind of mentality. And this thing just brings me a big smile on my face. So, yeah, thanks to everybody who's stayed to the end. Yeah, some weird guy in Somerset talking about, oh my god. No, it's cool. It's great. It makes a man smile. Doesn't do anybody any harm. And yeah, that's what seems like this should do. Make people happy, and I can share it with you on the interwebs. It's not Wessex Blades out. Stay safe. I'm going to find something to cut again. See you next time.